It's a CROW LAX TV mid-season show. Well, we're almost at the midway point for most of the teams, so we thought we would gather most of the gang together and get a few different thoughts from the smartest people in media and then myself. We got Colton Hoppy here. We've got Mohammed Joma, Keenan Canada, all voices you've heard on CROW LAX TV this season calling Rocky Mountain Lacrosse League games in the North. Colton, I'll start with you here as we dive in. What shocked you the most about the Tier 1 circuit? You know, whether it's a team you've seen, player you've seen, or just in general, what surprised you?
Well, Janner, there's been a couple of things that have surprised me. Agree to disagree with me on this take, but Zabersil and Beaumont, like, I don't know where Beaumont found a goalie out of the Czech Republic, or Czechia now they're known as, but yeah, Zabersil's been a complete eye-opener for me because I, for one, didn't know lacrosse was big over in Eastern Europe, and he's adapted to it over here. I'm not sure if the kid grew up playing ice hockey and then transitioned over or whatever have you made, but these are my big shock on the crude. Holy, can that kid sling the pill around in to watch some nights when he's on.
Yeah, Fodchuk's been impressive. Again, we will get to, a little bit more player-specific stuff, too. We'll get to some MVP and, a couple of awards a little bit later on. Mo, what about you? What surprised you this year?
Well, I mean, I would say just the competitive balance. The Junior B Loop and traditionally has had, like I think I said, we talked about on your podcast earlier in the week, the Junior B Loop is usually broken into segments, and you have your clear contenders, and you have that sort of those teams that are contending for the playoffs, maybe a couple bubble teams, one gets in, one gets out, and then your basement type teams that are rebuilding. And this year, it just seems like, yeah, sure, the Warriors and the Shamrocks are probably a cut above, but then there's just a whole slew of teams that on any given day you don't really know what you're going to get, and they can all beat each other. And also, I would say the Chill have surprised me. I had in a negative sense. I had expectations for that team. I think they've got a really good coaching staff. They actually have like former Raiders, guys I played against, guys I have a lot of respect for that know the game really well. And they have talent there. I don't know. I haven't been able to watch them play. So I've just been surprised that they haven't been winning a little bit more.
They weren't dominating, but again, that's a team turning over a guy in Noah Simonelli as well, who really led their offense, kind of like the Warriors and Joe Royer, but obviously they don't have the depth. Keenan, you got something that wasn't mentioned?
No, I think I'm kind of with Mo on that one. Is just the competitiveness between these teams. Like you're looking at the standings, you're seeing the Crude 3-7-0, you're seeing the Outlaws 3-5-0, but like realistically, you're looking at these teams and like the Crude. I think it was the one game where they were down by. I don't remember exactly which game this was, but they were down by 8. I think it was Crude SWAT. And they somehow pull out that win in the end. And then the Outlaws doing the same thing against the Crude. It's like any of these teams, like Mo said, any of these teams can beat each other on any given night. It's just a matter of the way the dice roll and the way the cookie crumbles.
Well, you guys kind of beat around the bush, but essentially what I think is most surprising, the amount of overtime games we've had is freaking insane. Like, that has been next level. As broadcasters, you have to love it. So I'm all for it, the overtime games. Okay, quickly, how do we feel about the ties? Like, we should be getting rid of those, right? I think my platform on this is that if we're trying to attract new fans who aren't showing up to the games because they know a certain player or they're a parent, relative, whatever it is, you don't go out of your way. You're not paying to go to a game to see it end in a tie. Like, that's just the absolute worst ending to a night. And that, in my mind, is lacrosse shooting itself in the foot right now, saying we don't really care about the fans because we're not going to change it. Like, you got to appeal to someone, and you got to end games on a climax.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
Keenan, Mo, am I wrong or what? I've had this out with everyone. I think it's nuts.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially I think it'd be even easier if they go with what we said and sort of cut down on the regular season and had a longer playoff. That way you have less games in the regular season, all the more reason to have a clear winner and loser and cut out ties. And there's ways you can work around that. I mean, they used to play a 10-minute overtime as opposed to a 5, and obviously your chances of getting a winner that way are higher. You have double the amount of time to get a goal. But there are ways. Maybe you play 4-on-4 in overtime. There's different ways that you can go about it to get that winner. I don't disagree with you. I think especially in a short season, you want to have the fans have a winner and a loser and go out of the arena with that. So I don't disagree with you.
I'm definitely on the same boat. I think having a clear-cut winner is better for the league itself. But like, even listening to you, Mo, and Cody earlier this week or last about like shortening the regular season, I don't even think that's the case. Even push the regular season to start a little earlier, let the guys run it a little later with the playoffs. Yeah, in a financial sense, maybe not the greatest, but if you're having these clear-cut winners, you're having more competitiveness. In the long run, I think it works out. It balances.
There you would run into like floor time issues and guys with hockey and college lacrosse. So I mean, as much as I would love to see it, like you don't have to sell me on more lacrosse, but I think if I had to make one rule change, obviously it's to go to 7-game series. But I think just thinking of the fans and how the Rocky Mountain Lacrosse League or just the Tier 1 circuit could provide a better product to non-traditional fans, I guess could be the best way to put it. It's you got to end games. You got to have a winner and a loser. I don't care if you got to play 5 minutes of 5-on-5, then 5 minutes of 3-on-3. I really don't care. But at the end of the night, you got to have, it's that big celebration. It's that excitement in the building. That's what gets people coming back. People don't really care about, and torn games tied 9-9. They shake hands. Like you're just looking like everyone's just going to leave happy after that. I don't know. I hate that. But okay, we went through what's shocking. We went through my rant on rules. What's something that's or maybe disappointed isn't the best term. What has been very underwhelming for you, Colton?
That's a good question. I mean, myself kind of getting into lacrosse really for the first time, doing play-by-play for Rocky Mountain League, I don't really have anything that's been a little underwhelming in a sense. I mean, sure, you'd like to see the games where teams aren't getting blown out of the water, but that comes down to teams having a skill set such as the Warriors, the Rebels, so on and so forth. But like, I thought there'd be a little more of the nasty stuff, even though these kids are 17 to 21 years old. Like, bad blood runs deep in the league because these guys play each other for so long. I honestly thought we'd be seeing a little more bad blood, like more pushing and shoving, a couple more scraps. Not that I'm encouraging it, but yeah, just a little more of the nasty stuff. I haven't really seen a lot of it.
Keaton?
On the contrary, I think that the reffing has actually been kind of underwhelming for me. And I know that's a pretty usual story that, it's always the ref's fault. But you look at it, like the sequence with the Mountaineers and the Warriors just this past weekend, where the Mountaineers, there could have easily been 3 calls on the Warriors there. Warriors end up scoring it on a breakaway opportunity. I mean, if you're the league looking at that, you've got to be like, and you're looking at competitiveness, you've got to be like, what is that? Like, you can't just be blowing these calls like that. And I think it's been underwhelming because I've been around the league for the last 2, 3, 4 years. And this season, in my opinion, has been one of the poorest ref seasons, cut and dry.
I think that's a game-to-game basis, just my 2 cents, because I think obviously it depends on every refs. I feel like I've seen worse seasons, but again, I haven't seen every single game. I'll be the first to admit that. But Mo, your thoughts?
This is going to sound very general, but I mean, I guess it is. I've been very impressed with the offensive side of the floor, but by the same token, defense and goaltending, and it sort of plays into what Colton was talking about in terms of intensity and just sort of the overall speed of the game. At times, it's almost looked like the games are being played like they're scrimmages at Millennium during the winter at times, not all the time, not
That's
every.
because the regular season doesn't mean much.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. They've got to do something to up the ante of these games. And the season is short. The season's already short, right? So you want to see people getting the bang for their buck and getting entertained when they're in these buildings. And I think some attendance has suffered at times because I don't know. I feel like these games are being played at half speed, and as the year goes on, I'm sure it'll pick up. But I think if you're a team right now that's worried about your goaltending, I think you're probably not too worried because it's everybody's problem. There's not one team that I can, at least in the North, that I can sit here and say, yeah, we can be confident about that. So if that's your weakness, you're probably in a good spot. But yeah, I would have to say the back gate in general, and that includes goaltending, has been a bit disappointing and underwhelming.
I feel we were spoiled with goaltending last year, though. Like, we saw Tyden Redlick, Tate Pinch put on some great performances for the Warriors. Trey Stewart was on another level for the Rebels. Like, Connor Murray had a couple of unreal games with the Crew. Like, we got spoiled with goaltending last year, in my opinion. Underwhelming. Colton, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. It doesn't feel like there's as much bad blood. And maybe that's junior sports in general. It's not 2017 anymore. It's not 2012 anymore. The refs have a little bit of a lighter lift. But I feel like the intensity hasn't been there every game. I feel like there's some times where you can really feel it get heated and you can feel the emotion. Fans love that. Just doesn't feel that often. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe that's my take.
And just to kind of piggyback on my own thought, like it comes back to the game that me and Keenan did in St. Albert last week. Like that was probably one of the more chippy games I've seen all year. Like you had the Crew and the Outlaws ready to kill each other.
Yeah.
That was a good game, actually. Thinking back to it, like that was a really good one to watch. I mean, all the broadcasts have been awesome. It's nice that they're accessible. It's nice that there's a platform that's available, and I know the feedback has been awesome as well. Okay, let's get to a couple of player specific ones. Give me 3 names: your top goalie, your top defender, and your top forward in the North.
Oh,
I know I'm putting everyone on the spot right now. Mo, I see you're thinking the hardest, so I'm throwing you up first here.
Oh Jesus. Okay. Well, as far as forward goes, I'd love to give this to guys like Ben Royer and Graham Dickin and all those guys. They just have so many guys that are deserving of it, and they all sort of feed off of each other. I'm not going to go in that direction though. I'm actually going to go with Fodchuk for the sole reason that when you look what he has surrounding him, and you look at his size, a guy that's that diminutive to carry the mail like he has, I think it's special. You look at the mass exodus of that team had off their roster, and he really hasn't missed a beat. So I have to give him the nod at forward. Out the back gate, I don't know. This is more of an overtime, like just sort of steadily improving and being an impact guy year in and year out. This isn't necessarily just over this year, but I want to give a nod to Anna Farajchuk of the Warriors. I think he just does so much for them. He transitions for them. He's good on draws. He's very disciplined player. He's aggressive, but he doesn't take a lot of penalties. I just think he's so balanced and he can score. So I'd give him the D award. And then goaltending, oh, that's a tough one. Probably Pinch, because he's been the most consistent, but with a sort of slate nod as well, a runner up or honorable mention to the Crew tandem, because I think without those two, I think they'd be in a lot worse shape right now. So that's sort of where I would land with it.
Keenan, you're 3.
I'm going to go in a bit of a different direction with forwards. I'm actually going to put out Kai Lee's name. He's been an absolute killer quarterback on the power play for the Outlaws. I mean, yeah, the Outlaws power play is only operating by my calculations, at about a 26%. But whenever Kai Lee's on the floor, they're getting tons of opportunities, tons of chances. and they just put their foot on the gas. And like I think they spend about 3/4 of their power plays in the offensive zone when he's quarterbacking that power play. It's wild to me. Out of the back gate, I'm kind of back and forth. I don't watch the defensive side as much. I'm a very offensive minded guy. I like the offensive side. But Wellner Bate from the Warriors has kind of impressed me, I'd say. I feel like he's been really good both like off, like immediately coming into the defensive zone for the teams and just getting the ball out of the offenseman's stick, knocking it loose, cutting a pass, whatever he has to do, and just get the transition started. Wellner Bate has been very good in my eyes for that. For goaltenders, that's that's its own thing.
It's tough.
It's very tough. Like Mo said, you got to give credit to the Crude tandem. I mean, Crude's 3-7-0, but they're keeping them in games. They are doing everything they can. They're just not getting the support from the defensive side of the ball. If I had to pick one name out of everybody, I would definitely say Horn from the Crude. And again, Peck has been amazing too, but Horn coming in on relief in a couple games ago, I had called after 9 against Peck, and then he only allows 4 on about the same amount of shots. It was just really impressive to me, and I think Horn definitely gets it for me.
Kid's a rookie too. It's impressive. Colton, you got a few names for us?
Yeah, and you both kind of stole the two I was going to throw up there, but I'm going to go in another direction here, and it's a guy off the Outlaws. I'm taking Grayson Maloney. Like, that guy knows how to move the ball around, and he's always thinking pass first. He doesn't always just try and take a shot just to take a shot. He try and makes a good play. Oh, no. I got one bar service.
Cut out.
We heard your forward pick. You got a defense and a goalie for us, or what?
I can pick a goalie.
Yeah, you got to pick a defender and goalie. You got to give us a name here.
All right, defender.
This is as good as it gets.
Defender. I'm gonna go with McBride on the Crude. Just an absolute moose, and you can't knock the ball off him.
Love it.
And then hopefully,
who's your goalie?
Probably the St. Albert tandem. They've just been something else to try and keep their team in a game, even though, like they said, 3-7-1.
Well, I don't think tandem's an option, but we'll give you the pass because you just battled through Elk Point Internet to give us some answers here. You kind of stole my defender. I was thinking Ryan McBride. I really do. I think that he's been a huge impact maker for the Crude. Anytime you've got a big body who's confident with the ball, who can push around forwards, you got to like that. But Caden Flett's been awesome too. Like Caden Flett, ever since he's come back to the Warriors, huge impact guy. He's got that experience. You got to enjoy watching him play. So that would be my top defender. Top forward, way off the map. And it's not, I don't think he's been the best forward in the league because he's a guy who comes out of both gates. Without Kalix Simonson, the Rebels are 500 this year. 2 overtime winners through, 8-9 games?
9 for the Rebels.
That's clutch. That's clutch forward right there. So give me Simonson, little Simonson, by the way, even though I wonder if Sebi's going to play on Friday. That'll be interesting. Mo, you got something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I wanted to just branch off of what Keenan was talking about with Kai Lee. So just a quick note on him. Back in Bantam, the year that a bunch of kids, those 2 years, a bunch of those kids are now playing A for the minors. And Bowen was coaching the West. I was coaching the South, and Lintz and Lachlan were coaching the Wizards, and Jared Poole was coaching the Titans. And when they would go out to BC, he would tell me that the guy keep in mind, this is a team with Vander Clay and Luke Royer and Hobday and all kinds of guys on it. I'm missing guys too off the top of my head. Reese Barnes. But he would say that all the other coaches, or when he was asked about a player on his team, it would always be Kylie. So sharp eye by Keenan by pointing him out, and I think that was a huge get for the Outlaws to get him. He hadn't played for the last couple of years at least, so that was a key get for the Outlaws to go out and grab him.
Definitely a very solid player. Goaltender, again, I think Tate Pinch is probably a front runner up there, but a guy who has impressed me as well. It's another rookie in Bowen Carpenter. Again, he was great against Fort Saskatchewan, against Edmonton the other night. I think that with Luka Wesky's struggles, you get the kid to step up and play some big minutes for you. You got to take it. That's pretty impressive. So call it a Rebels bias, but I'll give my top goaltender award to Bowen Carpenter at the midway point. All right, we want to finish with power rankings. Did I forget anything that I threw in there? We've gone through. Oh, no, best out of town team. Quick, throw it around the horn. Colton, who's the best out of town team you've seen this season?
Probably the Mountaineers, because, the Shamrocks didn't impress me too much, and the SWAT, they're still kind of developing their identity, so I'm going to go Mountaineers.
Keenan?
I called the one game that they've played so far out here in the North. I got to go with the Blizz. The Blizz really impressed me in that game against the Outlaws.
They got some weapons.
They do.
You know what? Most years you'd hear people say the Shamrocks, and look, at the end they're going to be there. There's no question about it. But I have to give a nod to the Mountaineers only because I just feel like they go under the radar. Nobody really talks about them. And in that Warriors game, they were facing all kinds of adversity. I'm not going to talk too much more about that. I don't want to get in trouble, but their bench was as calm as I've ever seen a bench be during those moments. And that, I know a lot of those guys, the Tyrells, are running that team, and class acts. And I think they got that team going in the right direction. Just a really balanced team. There's nobody really on that team that stands out. Nothing, no facet of their game necessarily would I say is elite, but they just do everything well and solid. And I thought McDonald and Net played quite well for them over the weekend. And that's something a lot of teams don't have, is good goaltending. So I think they could give the Shamrocks a run in the playoffs. So I'll go with the Mountaineers.
Amac's legit. They got some 50ers on that team that can play too. And as you said, great coaching. I like the Mounties. I thought the Shamrocks were really good when they were in town as well. But watching that Blizz team play at 9, 10 in the morning in Beaumont, I don't know. They're going to cause some problems for teams. There's something about that group that I don't think scare is the right word for you, but if you see them on your schedule, you're not happy. You're like, geez, they've got some legit players. So that'll be interesting to see them come later on in the year, even though they don't have an easy out of the West, because Regina's been an awesome team too. Okay, give me your quick power rankings. We'll wrap with this. Hoppy, we're starting with you, 1 through 4. Or start 4 through 1, I guess. 4 to 1. That's the better way.
Outlaws, Crude, Rebels, Warriors.
Classic. Keenan?
I'm going to put Crude at the bottom. Outlaws operating just above that. Rebels and then Warriors on the top. You can't argue with a 50% power play.
You're going to hear about that one. I've been there, done that. Bold, Keenan, bold. Mo, you're up.
You could just copy and paste what Keenan said for me. Really, I wish there was some intrigue into these, but I just think it's pretty. Like I said in a text a couple weeks ago, I think it's straightforward. It's what I have to go with.
Yeah, I think I'd put Crude at 3, Beaumont at 4. I want to see Beaumont get a little better defensively. I think that their goaltending hasn't been the strongest, but I also think they could be better defensively around him at times. Some of those collapses haven't been straight goaltending issues. They've been defensive issues. Their offense has another level to get to. And until they get that level, I can't put them ahead of the Crude. So I'll go Outlaws 4, Crude 3. Rebels, and it's coming down to the Friday, June 10th game here, I think, 10th, 9th. There's a Friday night one. Because the Rebels are now 1-1 against the Warriors. But the Warriors were missing a couple of guys in Simonson and Dickin. But the Rebels were also missing guys too. And I mean, that's, geez, I don't know. Kind of.
Cody, though, I think the Rebels deserve a little bit of an acknowledgement because I think they're flying under the radar a little bit, and they have one thing that I don't think necessarily a lot of other teams do, and they have the ability to score with the Warriors. Like they can conceivably win a 13-12 type game against the Warriors, where I don't know that, you could probably count on, less than one hand how many teams have that. So it gives them a fighting shot. And I think if they can sort of solidify their defense, because I think they are young and small out the back gate, but if Darren and that coaching staff can find ways to sort of put them in a better position defensively, I don't think it's crazy to suggest that they could give the Warriors a problem.
Well, number one, you can't take 6 or 7 minors against the Warriors. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but when they're burying at 80% rate, like you just got to stay to the penalty box. So that's key number one to pulling off an upset. But you're completely right, because they were missing Reed Lowe, Xander Maxwell, Carter Albrecht, 3 players who I think we all know could be impact players in the game. Not to say Sebastian Simonson and Graham Dickin can't, because those are probably 2 of the best scorers in all of Tier 1 lacrosse. But there is still an aspect of it. It comes down to a team game, and I think the Rebels could figure something out come late. But until they do that, one win over the Warriors doesn't get you top spot in my seat. Okay, any last thoughts, Hoppy? Anything I didn't ask you about you wanted to get out there?
This kind of just popped into my head, and it was during the SWAT's road trip out here. I think the kid's name was Fry, if I'm not mistaken. He was number 5 or number 8. Watch
on the Crude?
No, on the SWAT.
Oh. Hot start. Okay, keep it going.
I was on the same page, Cody. Don't worry.
I have 2 bars of service in God's country. Leave me alone.
Okay, so what's your thought on Fry?
It might not be Fry on St. Albert. It was the kid on the SWAT. Not to be jumping provinces here for a second, but I mean, the kid put up a boatload of points against the Outlaws. Put up 8 points in the game. He was in on every single SWAT goal, and then right to St. Albert and put up another 6, 7 points. Like, he was running the floor for that team, and I think he was a first-year player.
So you're saying look out for this Fry kid?
Yeah, look out for this kid. Look out for this number 8 on Saskatchewan. He's going to be nasty in like 2 years. I guarantee he'll put a 12-point game up in 2 years.
Keenan, anything we didn't ask you about?
I think I just want to give a shout out to the Outlaws, more specifically for their discipline on both sides of the ball. They 178 penalty minutes, and the next closest is the Rebels at 225. So 50 less penalty minutes than the Rebels, and you got to credit that to the coaching staff telling their players, like, hey, watch what you're doing with your sticks, watch how hard you're playing, kind of thing. So definitely for that, and the Outlaws have been a very well-disciplined team this season, in my opinion.
How much do you think, I got a question for you, how much do you think that plays into the fact that they know on paper they don't have the firepower to keep up with the Warriors, Rebels in a shootout if they get into penalty trouble? Like, do you think that plays into the players' heads?
I think, like, subconsciously it does. Because you know that your power play is operating at a half of what a Warriors power play is. But, I mean, at the same time, you got to ignore it. You got to block it. And again, I think I would contribute more of it to the coaching staff, just telling their guys to watch what they're doing with their sticks and how hard and how rough they're playing. I mean, the Outlaws only have 16 power play goals against this year. So, yes, they have 50 less penalty minutes, but you still have a very good penalty kill either way. So,
Mo, you got one more?
Yeah. Point B, I'd say point A being that I think it's impressive how the young offensive players now come into the league with so much confidence. And, back when I was in junior, when you were young, you were hesitant to shoot. You're second guessing a lot. These guys that are coming in, the Liam Elliott's and the Kalick, Felix Simonsons and guys like that, Eastwood. I could go on, but these kids they're ready to play, and they're jumping into the action, and then they're not hesitating, and I think that's great to see. They're getting comfortable really quickly, and then point B being that I'm begging the Outlaws, do not play the provincials in Ken Nickel. Move it to Hunter. Play it in the Bill. Way better atmosphere, way better camera angles.
No, okay. From a broadcast perspective, you are so damn right. That's a good take. From an atmosphere perspective, though, the Ken Nichols fun. Like, there's been a couple of like Beaumont Fort Sask games there when it gets close. That place is rocking. The fans are rowdy. They've got a good junior B hockey team environment there too. I'm sick of these barns saying no air horns. You should be forced to bring in air horns. Every team should have at least two. Like, these places need to get way rowdier.
You should have been kicking those guys out in Fort Saskatchewan in 2019 when they had those garbage cans up by the doors, and they would have just banged the hell out of them. I mean, I'm all for air horns, but the garbage cans can get lost.
Oh, that makes the broadcast great when there's just 10 garbage cans being crunched on in front of you. I love it though. Like, I mean, we saw it with the Junior A Raiders bringing their siren to the Bill Hunter. Like, teams got to get creative now. Like, cities and towns got to pump the brakes on this. Like, let's have some fun. Bring back fun junior environments. So I don't know. We just totally got off rails off of your take to move provincials. Okay.
Oh, on that carpet, it'd be just I don't know. I think it'd be great, but you can only hope.
They play it on the hard floor all season long. I think that it's fair to keep it at the Ken Nickel.
Tell everybody you booked your cot. Tell everybody you booked your cot at the Ken Nickel already. It's already set up there.
We're set up. Dressing room 4, set for the weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, my hot takes. We just need 7-game series. Someone get it done. Everyone. And we've kind of talked about it. The regular season, not boring, but not as meaningful with some of the spots already being kind of assumed. Get every team in the playoffs, make them play 7-game series, give the fans what they want. I think that kind of is my soapbox I'll stand on. But cool. That's a wrap. Okay. Thanks everyone at CROW LAX TV too. I got to give shout outs for Colton Hoppy, Keenan Candid, Mohammed Joma, Eric Kraus, Aiden Ganem, and Brandon Douglas. I'm Cody Jansen signing off. Mid-season show. It's been a blast. Can't wait to talk to you before playoffs.